I should be fair that in even talking about that story and even bringing it up, I'm doing something that is so dangerous and so disgusting that I frankly should be ashamed of myself. I am that kind of talk that I just engaged in. Well, frankly, it could lead to a second Holocaust. And as a Jewish person, I should be disgusted with myself. I get an applause for the transition.
Masterful segue right there.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Tom Perkins will set me straight on this kind of loose talk about poverty and joblessness. How dare I? Tom Perkins, who is a co-founder of Kleiner Perkins Caufield Byers, which is, I think, I would say it's the most prestigious Silicon Valley venture capital firm. It's been behind most every major Silicon Valley company, startup you can imagine, has a letter in the Wall Street Journal, which he's recently doubled down on, called "A Progressive Crystal Nacht Coming." You heard that right. That is a actual, literal name of the article. Kristallnacht, of course, we know is a Nazi, basically orchestrated violence against Jews after they came to power, which was sort of basically the precursor of the Holocaust. It's the type of thing that actually using as an analogy is like stunningly offensive, even if you were talking about something that was actually bad. That's how delusional this guy is. He writes to the Wall Street Journal, writing from the epicenter, this is Mr. Perkins, quote, "Writing from the epicenter of progressive thought, San Francisco, I would call attention to the parallels of fascist Germany, of fascist Nazi Germany, to its war on the, quote, 1%, namely its Jews, to the progressive war on the American 1%, namely the rich. From the Occupy movement to the demonization of the rich, embodied in virtually every word of our local newspaper, the San Francisco Chronicle, I have perceived the rising tide of hatred of the successful 1%. There is an outraged public reaction from the Google buses carrying technology workers from the city to the peninsula, high-tech companies which employ them. We have outrage over rising real estate prices, which these, quote, techno geeks can pay. We have, for example, libelous and cruel attacks in the Chronicle on our number one celebrity, the author Danielle Steele, alleging that she is, quote, a snob, despite the millions that she spent on our city's homeless and mentally ill. Yuck. This is a very different drift, dangerous drift in our American thinking. Kristallnacht was unthinkable in the 1930s. Is it descendant in progressive radicalism? Is it unthinkable now? I tripped over that last sentence there because my mind is literally reeling from the insanity of this guy's comments. They actually followed up with him. Bloomberg followed up with him over the weekend, and he said, and he doubled down. In the Nazi era, it was racial demonization, and now it's class demonization, he wrote Bloomberg. Now, the serious question is, besides the fact that obviously this guy was never even on his meds that he's off now to begin with, if you know what I'm saying. Completely insane and out of his mind. But the important question to connect to this is, how is it at a time when you could not imagine a more favorable political climate? I mean, I guess you could. The only more favorable political climate you could have is maybe additional tax cuts under Mitt Romney. But in terms of reality, this is as good as it's going to get. You have Wall Street, which blew up the world economy, falling living standards everywhere, and a political class who, epitomized by President Obama saying, yeah, you should pay a little bit more in taxes, maybe. But you guys you're smart guys, and we'll bail you out, and everything's going to be okay. These guys really, really think that they're under siege. And that's why this is funny, but it's also the equivalent of having the guy who's screaming at himself in the subway actually be in control of major amounts of capital. And I think that, Josh Marshall actually pointed out a couple of reasons for this. One is that the profound disconnect, because we're talking about we're not talking about being comfortable, well off, whatever. We're talking about, and I've been around some of this, even with, people who are very progressive, but a type of wealth that just totally insulates to the point of creating almost a phobia of any other type of experience of life and any other type of people that are living in that experience. It really has a psychological and emotional cost. The other thing that's happening, and it shows you how unbelievably sensitive and delusional some of these people are, is that even though they're paying no consequences in policy or in Wall Street's case, the criminal consequences, the fact that they are no longer culturally worshipped is devastating for these people. When you saw Mitt Romney, the most he would whine and get upset and worked up would be any time he really felt that, the businessman, the CEO was being disrespected. That got him more aggravated and sincerely perturbed than anything else happening in modern politics. And the fact that the curtain has been drawn back and that these are not masters of the universe keeping everything going, as Josh Marshall says, but actually the greedy and the buffoons who in their short-sightedness have generated all of these problems. And now people are reasonably and relative to the situation incredibly calmly and civilly asking for actual issues to be addressed. And the fact that there is this much of just a kind of stunning emotional meltdown shows you that this wealth inequality crisis really is hurting everybody. And some people, it really is deeply hurting them mentally and emotionally, people like Mr. Perkins. So we got to keep on this for everybody's own good, for the good of someone trying to get a job and a kid not trying to live in poverty, and also for the good of Mr. Perkins, who's clearly completely lost his mind.